Hey guys, it's Walter Montero here from the I Love Cambridge podcast. I'm just doing a little preamble here on this particular interview because at the end of the interview, I failed to ask the gentleman his contact information and website. So his name is Ryan Pagnacco from Enable Innovation, okay? And his company phone number, I'm just going to come over here, so I'm going to read it right off the website. It's 226-666-0255. And it's enableinnovation.ca. That's his contact information. Anyway, you're going to love it. They're in the prototype business, and they're right here in the Waterloo region in Waterloo. And anyway, here's the show. Hope you enjoy. Hi, my name is Walter Montero. I'm a real estate and mortgage agent here in Cambridge, Ontario, and I've had the privilege of serving our community since 1987. Over the years, I've met some great people here in our community in many different businesses and walks of life. Some, of course, are well known, and others are some of the best kept secrets in town. So the purpose of this podcast is to share and introduce them to you. Welcome to the I Love Cambridge podcast. This is kind of an exciting interview. So your name is Ryan Pagnacco?
Pagnacco.
Oh, sorry, say that again.
Pagnacco.
Pagnacco, okay.
Yeah.
The name of your company is Enable Innovation Product Development.
Yes.
All right. Well, that is very exciting. I was looking at your website for a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. So Enable Innovation is a mechanical engineering firm, essentially. But it's not just general mechanical engineering. We focus on product development specifically for manufacturing in Canada.
Okay.
So, and the services that we provide are also done on an as-needed basis. So if our clients, for example, they don't have engineering departments of their own, or if they do have an engineering department, if it's understaffed or doesn't have enough staff to do a development process or a project that they're working on, they can come to us. And we work as needed, basically on a contract basis, to help them develop a product or to develop a process for a product, or even if it's just something as simple as helping them finish up drawings or data for the actual manufacturing process. And we can even help them find manufacturers in the region.
Oh, very good. Okay. So are you typically dealing with existing manufacturers? Is that who your client base is?
Those are usually on our vendor side. So
I see. Okay.
The manufacturers on the manufacturing side, we try to work with as many manufacturers in the region as humanly possible, and we want them to be not only our clients, or not only our vendors to have things made, but also our clients in the event that they have an innovation or they have a product they want to develop themselves. And if they don't have an engineering department that does product development, well, we can step in. But they end up being more often they end up being the vendors that we connect our clients to so that they can have their products made.
Okay. So now these products that I guess people design or have an idea for, are they end user products like to a consumer, or is it a product that is created to service the manufacturing of something else?
We've actually done a bit of everything. So we've done consumer products, we've done safety equipment, we've actually done fixturing and tools for manufacturing, and we started with firearms, so we've actually done firearms as well. So it's a broad range.
Wow, that's kind of neat. So who can you give us an idea of the type of companies you're dealing with, or any success stories you can share with us?
Well, we're pretty young. I've only been doing this for about 2 years, and
okay.
So it's, we're in the midst of a couple success stories.
Okay, good.
We have a couple that we're really proud of. We have a client actually. Yesterday, I posted an article on LinkedIn about who is another Canadian Forces veteran who had transitioned to a health and safety company specifically geared towards first responders. And he's actually developing a mask, a respirator for first responders and healthcare workers. And his original goal was to developed something that provides a prophylaxis for post-traumatic stress disorder. So basically from environmental elements. And when all this craziness started with COVID-19, you know, there was the crisis-opportunity, and he's now pivoting his company towards providing these masks for not just frontline workers, but for anybody.
Wow.
So we're in the process of developing.
Timing is everything, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's one of the interesting things that I've learned from all this, from being myself a Canadian Forces veteran and going through school for engineering, and then taking up this this entrepreneur thing. The thing we all have in common is finding these challenges that we just run headlong into and enjoy. So it's always interesting to see that weird crossover.
Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So tell me a little bit about if somebody wants, obviously, to use your services. Obviously, there's non-disclosure agreements and all that kind of stuff involved. And how, I guess, how small is too small in terms of somebody coming to you and saying, hey, I've got this idea?
Honestly, I don't think anything is too small.
Okay.
Little ideas sometimes turn into really big ones. And actually, we have another client who had an idea for a project related to hobbycraft, specifically for tabletop miniatures, to make molds for them. That some hobbyists will build their own molds and cast their own miniatures. And he had come to us and told us his idea, and we loved the idea because I was a gamer when I was younger too.
Mm-hmm.
And his enthusiasm was just, it was contagious. So we're in the midst of developing that for him as well, but it's a small product in the grand scheme of things, but for him it's essentially his dream. So when we start on these development processes, the first thing we always do is an analysis to determine whether or not the project is viable from an engineering standpoint. And a lot of the times that comes down to the cost and timeline of development. And it's a question that anyone who has a good idea, the first thing they need to understand is how long is it going to take to develop, and then what is that actually going to cost. So before we dive into anything, we do this analysis and we build them an entire plan to go from, you know, a napkin sketch to a final product that's being manufactured. And so they get a sense of the timeline, they get a sense of the costs involved and what to expect from it. And if they take that information and go elsewhere with it, or if they take that information and say, no, we're not going to move forward, then that's entirely fine. It's their information. And along with anything else we develop for them, the intellectual property belongs to them. We are just the ones producing it and developing it. So we could finish a design for someone and they could take it, you know, to the other side of the world for manufacturing, and that's entirely their prerogative. I'd just as soon have it made here, but you know,
Sure.
I'm not gonna tell my clients how to spend their money. I'm just gonna show them how they can.
Sure. No, I get it. So I guess one of the things that sort of pops into mind is if somebody comes up with an idea, I guess the big thing, or a thing that sort of comes to my mind, is how do we know that this idea doesn't already exist? Like, what is that? Would that be one of the first steps in making sure that we're not copying something that
Absolutely.
that perhaps somebody else already owns?
Yeah, we absolutely, the first stage in our analysis is taking a look at what's in the market. And we don't tell our clients how to market their product or their concept, but we will tell them what is out there that's similar. And we do a very limited patent search. Because we're not patent lawyers, we can't give that kind of advice, but we can say, hey, look, we found these patents that may relate to your product. You might want to contact a patent lawyer and see if this is doable. Mm-hmm. But aside from checking to see if there's another product out there, we also look at the aspects, the regulatory aspects and the legal aspects that might pose a barrier. Some of our clients might not know what is legally permitted to be produced in Canada. That happens a lot in the firearms industry. Mm-hmm. But as well for things like medical devices or equipment that's used in a shop or in a commercial location, most of our clients don't fully understand what regulations are there. So part of
Yeah.
it is finding out what those regulations are and then giving them an entire list. And of course, there's also standards as well. Like in engineering, there are lots of associations for standards. So we always look into those as well, because all of these pieces of information help us build a guideline for what it is exactly that we can do to help them and how we can navigate the barriers.
I see. Okay. So now, do you tackle this on your own? Do you have a staff? Do you outsource to uh, outside services? How do you go about that? How do you put this whole thing together?
Well, we have a diverse team of engineers and technologists.
Okay.
Myself, I'm an engineering technologist. I actually went to Conestoga College and did the design and analysis program.
Great.
And I have a senior engineer who I worked with at a previous job, who is a licensed engineer in Ontario and in New Brunswick. And then we have a licensed mechatronics engineer on staff, and we even have an aerospace engineer in training on staff.
Oh, wow.
And so, part of the plan is as we grow and as we take on more jobs, we'll find more diverse engineers to bring on board. And essentially we all move through the same process for development, but we each bring a different aspect or knowledge or experience to the development itself.
Okay. Great. Now, in terms of the actual making of the prototype, is that done right in your facility?
It depends on the prototype. We do have 3D printers and
Okay.
other machines.
About that, but yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're always fun. We don't have the top of the line 3D printers yet. We'll get there though. We have
Okay.
a lot of desktop printers.
Okay.
We make do, and really it's just those types of models are for pre-production prototypes or proof of concepts to see if it'll actually work. And if we need something prototyped that is metal or wood or plastic or anything like that, there are plenty of shops in this area throughout in the entire Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge area that will prototype anything at any time. So we find the best resources that suits our design or our client's design, and then we basically go with them or let our client decide if that's the way they want to go.
Yeah, you're definitely in a good part of the world in terms of having access to some expertise.
Absolutely. It's incredible around here how much manufacturing there is.
Yes.
That people don't even know about.
Yes.
That this region, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, Guelph, Brantford, there is a mountain of resources around here that we can produce anything from wood, plastic, metal, to exotic materials and insane processes and designs. It's really incredible.
It sure is. I know my wife and I go to sometimes we'll go to the Chamber of Commerce Awards banquet. And, you hear these awards being given out to these local companies, and you have no idea they're in your backyard and how successful they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I wasn't even aware that there was a foundry out in Elmira. And when doing research just before the COVID-19 shutdown, we were doing research for another client's project. And we found this place and asked for a tour. And we ended up in this foundry taking a look at things being sand casted. And it was phenomenal. The shop was no bigger than our current shop and office. And
Mm-hmm.
they were producing incredible pieces, and they're constantly busy. And it's places like that and all these processes that exist around here, they're absolutely incredible. So it's absolutely it's a great place to have things manufactured. We just need more people with ideas to push them through.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's great. So now you say you've been in business for a couple of years, you mentioned?
Yes, 2
Okay,
years.
so-
Well, we're on our third year.
Okay, so what's your background? Where were you before?
Oh, this will be an interesting one. Forever and a lifetime ago, I was in. I grew up around the Waterloo area, and I left school before I was finished, and ended up working in machine shops and manufacturing and things. And I realized that, no education isn't going to help me. So I went to Conestoga College for machining, and I really enjoyed it. And I ended up working in machining for a few years, but it was around the time when a lot of manufacturing was moving overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And the automotive industry around here started to cave in, and jobs are harder to come by, and so were apprenticeships. And so I was a reservist in the regiment in Cambridge,
Okay.
and so I volunteered for a deployment to Afghanistan,
Oh, wow.
and was injured in combat. And when I came home, I could no longer work in manufacturing, so I was given the opportunity to go back to school again. And I figured, why not go for engineering? I liked making things. Well, why don't I just design them? So I went right back to Conestoga College, took another program. Once I completed that, and with the help of the local regiment, I actually ended up working at a firearms company in Kitchener.
Yep.
And I left a really good job. It was an amazing job, a lot of research and development and testing. And I left it for something that I thought would be better, and I wasn't a good fit for. So I regretted it, but I had to move on and move forward. And I had the opportunity to do an entrepreneurial course through Princess Operations Entrepreneur, part of the Princess Charities, which helps veterans move from their Army career into a civilian career. So I got a week-long learn by the fire hose course on how to be a business owner. And right after that, I incorporated and started working on the licenses and registrations I needed to do the thing that I love to do, which is designing stuff.
Awesome.
So
That's a great story.
Yeah, it's strange, and it's usually brings up weird questions and conversations, but yeah.
Yeah, oh, I bet. Yeah, for sure. So how long were you in Afghanistan?
Well, I was only there for 3 weeks.
enough to see enough action.
Yeah, it was. I was there long enough to participate in a major operation, Operation Medusa, and on the second day of the operation, my platoon was strafed by an American aircraft, and 38 of us were wounded, and a friend of mine was killed. So,
oh boy,
it was a rough day. It was back in 2006. So, but I mean, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and
that's right.
And if if I look back on that, that was the moment my life changed, and I knew that anything after that was going to be an uphill battle, and I had to take that crisis and turn it into an opportunity. So I can't really say I regret it. It was an experience.
Well, it's funny in hindsight. The pieces of the puzzle always fit, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, it's only a shame if you miss those pieces and don't put them together.
Yes. Yeah.
So I always feel that I took the opportunities I was given and tried to do the best I could with them, and I'm happy with what I'm doing.
Well, good for you, man. That's awesome. Very good. So, getting back to the process, how long does the process typically take for somebody to take something from idea to the market? And then I guess the second part is how much cost is usually involved in those types of things?
Those are always the two huge questions that every inventor and innovator wants to know: is how long and how expensive.
Yes.
And I always refer to what I call the triangle of project management, where you have cost, time, and quality. And
yes,
you get to pick two essentially, and then one suffers.
Yeah.
So we like to produce things that are quality, and our process is documented very heavily. So the quality aspect always has to be there. So we don't do fast and cheap.
Yeah.
We can do fast and high quality, but it costs money, and we can do high quality and cheap, but it takes time.
Yeah, I love that pyramid.
Yeah, I think it should be taught in grade school. Everyone should fully understand it.
For sure. Unfortunately, you learn it by the tribulations of life, I guess, more than anything else.
Absolutely, that's right. And for most of our projects, it's really dependent on what it is, what the project is, and how complex it is, and then
Yep.
how many barriers there are to it. So if the project is really easy and there's no barriers, and it's as simple as designing something and then taking it to somewhere to get it cut or made, it can be a matter of a few weeks to maybe a month.
Yep.
And then it really depends on the vendor's schedules. Like, surprisingly, manufacturers around here are very busy all the time.
Yeah.
And it's actually because of understaffing. If I could go back or if I could be a high school student right now, I'd go right into machining again, and because there are jobs out there waiting for them.
Yes.
But the biggest challenge we face, we want things manufactured locally, but getting them into their schedule can be a barrier sometimes. So, and most of our clients are okay with that because they believe that their products need to be made locally as well. So, if we're all on the same side on that, then it's never an issue. The more complex the project is, though, the higher the cost can get. And then there's costs for any barriers that are regulation or legally bound. So if they have to have their products tested, like any kind of electronics or any kind of medical devices, they all have to be tested. They have to be certified. That takes time that we can't really judge, or we don't know how long it will take them. And especially now with everything shut down, it's like everything's moving at a snail's pace. So, timeline can be a very big challenge sometimes.
Yeah.
But when people come to us with a base idea, it's good for them to know that the development time is very, very important. If they can spend time on anything, it's that initial development to make sure that the product they're coming up with is exactly the thing they want. So if they can invest the time in anything, that would be it. But of course, that's also a lot of our time as well.
Yeah.
In terms of costs, again, it depends on the complexity. We have a sliding scale for services depending on what it is. And, I give discounts to fellow veterans because I like seeing veterans' ideas and I love helping my fellow soldiers. So, but at the same time, because we do everything on an as needed or in small bites kind of way, when we have startups that come to us and their budgets are extremely limited, we'll show them the path. And if there are parts of the path that they can take up and that they can do and it will cost them less, then we'll give them the guidance and we'll give them the documentation and the process and say, okay, go on the path and we'll just check it for you when you're done. And then you're just paying us for us to check it. And if they have big chunks that they can't handle, well, then it's best to use their money the smartest way possible by only involving us when they need us.
Right.
And so it saves them money and it gets their product rolling.
Right. Okay. Now, I guess just sort of in asking that question, there was sort of a couple things that came to mind. Is number one, what would be your sort of your least expensive or your cheapest project you've ever worked on, and what has been the most expensive? And I guess, and then the second part to that is, would you have any connections to, say, venture capital that would be able to help people in these types of situations?
Honestly, wish I could help our clients with funding. And in the last few years, I've been doing my best to try and make those connections with the venture capitalists and other potential investors. And it's a difficult road. And a lot of it is the marketing side of things that I don't always fully understand.
Sure.
Because my background is, engineering. So, I don't speak marketing too well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I would love to be able to connect my clients with funding, because that would be awesome. And I know there's tons of projects out there that are definitely in need of funding, including projects that I have sitting on my desk, really. And it would be awesome if we could do that. And that is essentially the goal down the road, is to be able to connect them. Now, in terms of like the cheapest projects I've done, we actually, through a contact I have with the Canadian Special Operations Regiment, which is a special forces group up in Petawawa, we were contacted and asked to design and produce a plaque for operators, which are the guys that go and kick in doors and do all the commando stuff.
Yep.
And it's really cool. So I wish I was I wish I was able to do that, but not now. Those guys are just awesome. But we were asked to basically design this shield-looking plaque and mount their standard dagger into it. And that one, I mean, that was maybe a couple $100 of design work. And
Wow.
then we actually have a machine shop out or a wood shop out in New Brunswick. So we produced it on our machines and sent it out to them. And I'm proud to say that's, there's a few of them out there that we've produced for operators. And, I'm proud that it's in their hands. So, that was a pretty cheap and simple and really quick project. And on the more expensive side, we've had projects into the $250,000 or $500,000 range that we've quoted out and we've started development on, and we're, starting to slowly work through their budget. And, it often ends up having to pause because of things like the current crisis, or pauses because of, someone's change in financial position or whatever. But, that's the whole point of our process, is that we can put it down and pick it up as needed. But we have quoted some fairly large projects, and I'm always afraid that someday they're all going to show up at once, and then I'm going to have to scramble to find some more engineers. And I don't think it would be too difficult, because I know quite a few people who'd love to be part of these projects. But it's my two biggest fears are, the same fear every entrepreneur has, is no one comes and buys, and then the other fear is everybody comes all at once. And then I'm scared of both. So I'm always planning for both situations.
For sure. Well, Ryan, I could probably sit here and ask you 100 more questions, because this topic is so interesting.
For sure.
Now, I wanted to ask, is there any question that I didn't ask you that I should have?
Oh, yeah. I could.
Yeah, a ton of them.
It could be.
Never ask an engineer that question.
Yeah, we could be here all day, and I appreciate this, what you're doing in this podcast, and
Awesome.
I've actually been binge watching a lot of them today.
Oh, great.
Kind of in preparation, and there are a few that you've interviewed that I find very interesting that I'll probably be contacting.
Awesome. Very good.
So I think this is great. And my connection to Cambridge might not be as strong as some of the other ones. Most of it is military related with the regiment, but the whole region, it will benefit from this, I believe. So
Awesome.
good work. Love it.
Awesome. Very good. Well, Ryan, first of all, thank you for your service more than anything else. I mean, you've made a big sacrifice. We definitely appreciate it. And thanks for being a guest on I Love Cambridge.
My pleasure. I look forward to seeing more of these podcasts.
You bet. All right. Thanks very much, my friend. You have a great day.
You too.